Good morning and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants event. My name is Joe Grabowski, and I'll be your host for today. Today, we're really excited. We are, almost halfway through November and going along with some really exciting events still to come. In fact, we'll be releasing an update newsletter later today with a whole series of events coming up to wrap up the month and maybe a little sneak peek at December coming up. Today, however, we are going to take a little virtual field trip out into the field in California, on the beach, at the Pacific, at Año Nuevo. And we're going to spend a little time with Assistant Professor Roxanne Beltran and her PhD student, Allison Payne. And they are doing some awesome projects exploring elephant seals. So particularly looking at the predator-prey interactions in the open ocean. And of course, that can tell us lots of things about the health of our ocean as well. So we're going to get a chance to meet them, meet some of those seals down on the beach, and then of course work in a little kahoot action, and then we'll take questions from our classrooms. But for now, let's bring in our guests. We've got Roxanne joining us from the beach. Hey Roxanne, how are you doing today?
Hi Joe, I am cold but happy. How are you doing?
I'm good. It's great to have you with us. And we also have Allison joining us here today as well. Hey Allison, how are you?
Hi, doing well. Excited to see everyone.
Perfect. We've got a great group of classrooms. We've got some of them hanging out backstage. We've got more tuning in live via YouTube. So I think we're going to have a lot of fun today. But for now, Roxanne, I think you're going to start. So I'll let you take over for a little bit.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Año Nuevo. We are here in Northern California. You can see some elephant seals behind me. We've got the Pacific Ocean as a beautiful backdrop. I am lucky enough to work with Allison on these elephant seals, trying to figure out where they're going when they go on their oceanic migrations and how it is that they're able to make a living in the big, deep, dark ocean where there's predators and prey and they're all interacting. We're really interested in figuring out how these seals can survive and how it is that they're able to make it back to these beaches. So today's kind of plan for the day is I'm going to give you sort of a 5-minute introduction to these elephant seals, some basic information about what we call natural history, so information about the species, their history, and some of their really cool adaptations that allow them to survive. Then I'm going to take you on a little tour to show you some of the seals. If we're lucky, we'll be able to see some individually tagged or marked seals. So those are seals that our research group keeps track of. And then I'll pass it over to Allison, and she's going to talk a little bit about some of the research that we've been doing over the last couple years. And then, as Joe mentioned, we're going to have a kahoot. So make sure you're listening in on these seal facts and you can remember them, okay? So I want to start with a little bit of history about these elephant seals. Elephant seals are an amazing species because they used to be all up and down the coast. And, about 100 years ago, elephant seals were near extinction because humans hunted them so much that there were only about 10 or 20 seals left in the wild. They almost went extinct. But luckily, there was a Protection Act that was passed, a law that made it so that humans couldn't hunt those seals, and the seals rebounded. So now there's over 220,000 elephant seals in the world. We're lucky enough to have about 10,000 of those that call Año Nuevo their home. So those seals come here about twice per year, once to molt and once to breed. So when I say molt, what I mean is that the seals replace their fur coats every year. If you can see these seals behind me, these are juveniles. Some of them have their coats are not looking so good. You can imagine they're out in the ocean most of their time when they're not on the beach, and the ocean's really cold and can be pretty rough on a fur coat. So just like you and I get split ends and we have to get haircuts every once in a while, the seals accomplish that by replacing that fur in that skin every single year during their molt. And they also come here to breed in order for the males and females to mate and to give birth to pups, to raise those pups by nursing them with really fat milk, and then letting those pups go off and explore on their own. Now, elephant seals are mammals. So just like us, they, have fur, they require milk from their mom in order to survive. And, we're really lucky in that we're pretty protected as mammals, right? We don't have natural predators, but these seals do. So killer whales and white sharks are both known to predate on elephant seals. And that means that when elephant seals go on their migrations, they're vulnerable. So what they do to avoid being eaten by those predators is they dive really, really deep. So these elephant seals, on average, can hold their breath for 23 minutes. So it's 8:07 right now. At around 8:30, think about the fact that an elephant seal would have been holding its breath that entire time. And they're doing that 23-minute breath hold with only about 2 minutes at the ocean surface between dives to catch their breath. They're doing that for 7 months straight during these long migrations into the ocean in order to find food. So I told you their two predators are killer whales and white sharks, at least the predators that we know about. Both of those species are relatively shallow in the water column. So elephant seals do a lot of diving in order to stay in the deep, dark ocean so that their predators can't see them and therefore can't eat them. So one of our main questions is, well, if the elephant seals need to be able to dive really deep to be able to avoid predators and also to be able to catch the fish and squid that they're eating, how is it that juveniles are able to figure out how to do that? You know, you think about juveniles, they're really small, they're really inexperienced, they haven't figured out how to migrate yet, they haven't figured out how to dive yet. And they're going out into the ocean on these 7-month migrations and finding enough food to survive and avoiding their predators, which is pretty spectacular. So one of our big questions is, how are the juveniles able to do that? And is it that the juveniles that are better at diving and better at finding their way in the ocean, are those better at surviving those long trips to sea? And so we're really interested in picking out particular individuals and basically tracking them and seeing which ones survive and which ones don't. So I'll show you the elephant seal colony here. I'm going to take off my gloves so I can hopefully turn my video camera around. And I'll show you that these juvenile elephant seals that are here, some of them are individually marked and tagged so that we can keep track of them. So right now on the beach, this is kind of the juvenile haul out period. So most of the seals that you're going to see once I figure out how to put my camera around are 2 and 3-year-olds, some 1-year-olds as well. So you can see these seals here. This little seal that's backing up is about 1 year old, kind of putting its head up. You can see the seals that are kind of by the water line. They're doing a little fighting. They're sort of figuring out how to be seals. So these juveniles, if they're 1 or 2 years old, that means when they were pups, we were able to get to know those individual seals. So every year, about 500 young of the year seals, so seal pups, are flipper tagged. And I'll show you a flipper tag in a second. I'm going to have to get really quiet so that the seals don't get scared of me. But I'll show you those flipper tags, and you can see that basically in the rear flippers of the seals, we have a plastic tag, and each plastic tag has a unique number, and that's how we keep track of the individual seals. And those tags are pretty small, so we use important scientist tools like binoculars and cameras in order to figure out which seals are on the beach. Once we do that, sometimes we put dye marks on the sides of the seals with that same number that's on the flipper tag, and that allows us to have a much bigger number that we can see that makes it easier to keep track of those individual seals. So we have research teams that go to this beach almost every day that are looking for individual seals and making notes about those seals, like, you know, they're of course alive if they're here, so that's great. But we also write down how old they are, if they're male or female. For the adults, we write down if they have a pup. That tells us how successful they've been. We might make notes like if they, you know, have a wound from a shark or something like that, then we'll be able to write that down and figure out how that wound is healing and whether the seal is able to heal it nice and fast and stay nice and healthy. So I'm going to try to find a flipper tag for you guys. I'm going to be quiet here for a second and just let you kind of see the seals so that we don't spook them. So it looks like none of these guys have flipper tags, but if you look in that big group, you might be able to see that there's a mark on one of the seals that says H903. I'm going to walk you around so you can try to get a slightly better view of that seal. That seal is a 1-year-old, so he's been on the beach probably for about 2 or 3 weeks, but was born in spring of last year, seals are a little curious about us. So if you look right there, you can see that mark. And I'll just leave it here for a second so you can see if you can see that mark, see if you can read it, and check out what all the other seals are doing. You can see that the seals all tend to have individual personalities. So some of the seals will just sleep the whole time. Others will be curious and will come towards us. Others will kind of run away and try to get their own space. Some of the seals are really aggressive. And one of the research questions that some people are asking in our group is, are the seals that are a little bit more interested or a little bit more aggressive, are those the ones that tend to do better at finding food and avoiding predators? It may be that there's something about their personality or their individual characteristics that makes them more likely to be able to survive out in the open ocean, which is pretty crazy. So you can see on the beach right now, there's another big group here. This small group is probably like 15 animals. The bigger group over here is probably about 150 animals. And there's another about 50 animals up in this little cove up here. And these guys are they're just resting. So they've just gotten back from about 7-month migrations where, like I told you, they were diving for 23 minutes on average, followed by just 2 minutes catching their breath at the ocean surface and then diving down again. And they do that so that they can find food, but they can't sleep very often when they're out at sea because they would expose themselves, be really vulnerable to predators. And so when they come onto the shore, a lot of times they're just resting. So they're doing a little bit of playing and flipping sand, you can see, to kind of keep themselves cool. But aside from that, they're doing a lot of napping, up to about 10 hours a day. They're very snoozy at this time of the year. Allison, I think now would be a great time for you to talk about some of the research if you're interested.
All right. Well, it's hard to take away this view, the beautiful sun just hitting the elephant seals, but we will take a pause now and bring Allison in and jump into a little bit more of the research. So Allison, let's get you nice front and center. And I have your presentation here as well. So let's get into a little research.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, you got some really good looks at the young juveniles there. Super cute this morning. So I'm going to tell you more about the research program that we do at Año Nuevo. Let's see if I can move my slide onto the next one. Okay, so first off, I want to acknowledge that big research projects like this just have a lot of collaborators and a lot of people working together across different universities and different labs. So it takes a lot of people to have a long-term project studying elephant seals. And I also want to give a quick background on me, which is that I've loved the ocean for a really long time and have tried to spend as much time near it as possible. And this is my diary entry from when I was 6 years old, when I wanted to be an oceanographer or someone that studies oceans. So just wanted to bring that up in case you have similar looking journal entries. So we just learned a lot about elephant seals from Roxanne on the beach. So don't answer me here, but just think to yourself, what have we learned from Roxanne about elephant seals just in the last couple minutes? Migrations all alone. So there is a subset of these seals that we tag with flipper tags. They're the actually cattle tags, which are if you're driving on the highway and you see cows that have little tags on their ears, we use those same tags to figure out who's who in the elephant seal colony. So every year there are 300 new elephant seal pups that become part of our research program. So once they're independent, we carefully capture them. We weigh them to see how well their moms did, how much milk they got from their moms. And then we apply these flipper tags, which each have a unique number. And that becomes their ID for the rest of their lives. And for these elephant seals, that means that sometimes we can see the same seal over and over again every year, sometimes for 20 years. And of course, this is kind of difficult to find. As we saw with Roxanne, it's not always easy to figure out where the flipper tag is. So we also mark the seals. So this is using hair dye, the same thing that you might use at home, and we have a wooden stamping stick. And this allows us to find and identify the animals more easily than if they just have that little flipper tag on them. These marks last for 1 year before the seal molts off its fur and replaces all of that fur. So we mark them every year with their same number. And this is a little video showing how that works. So you can see that was just a little stamp. It surprised the seal, and now they'll have that mark for the rest of the season. And that's really helpful for us. As you saw, hopefully you were able to spot that mark that Roxanne pointed out. And that's what the mark looks like. So once the animals have a flipper tag and a mark, then we can see them day after day and year after year, and really have these long histories of where they're going, when they're having pups, and whether that pup is male or female. We can have information about when they molt, or any information about wounds that they might have or behaviors that we see. So up here, this is an adult female whose number is B95. And we first saw her as a female weanling in 2015. So she's now 7 years old. And we've seen her more than 100 times at Año Nuevo. So this is her full history. Every green row is a different sighting, and then every blue row is a different year. So we have all kinds of information about her. And we've been doing this for a really long time. There are over 360,000 sightings of 50,000 seals over the last 60 years at Año Nuevo. So this is a really, really big project. And in addition to putting out these little flipper tags and the marks, we also put out more complicated, more expensive tags like satellite tags. So that's what's on this seal's head here. The seals will have all kinds of different tags put on them, but the satellite tags can help us track them over time as they're off on their foraging trips. So these tags also have, we also attach other tags with them. So we have VHF recorders. That's a radio signal that helps us find the seal once it's back on the beach. A TDR, or a time depth recorder, which records the time and depth that the seal is diving to. We can have tags like CTD, which is conductivity, temperature, and depth. These tags can give us information about what's happening in the ocean, what kind of food is available, what kind of productivity is happening. And then lastly, sometimes we put out jaw accelerometers, and that just measures how fast the seal's jaw is closing, and that can actually tell us every time the seal takes a bite. So that can give us really interesting information on when the seal is eating. So over the last 20 years, Dan Costa and his team have led this huge effort to instrument about 40 seals every year, and found that they go on these really long migrations out into the middle of the Pacific Ocean and then back to Año Nuevo. So they are traveling about 10,000 kilometers round trip and are diving down below the surface to over 1,000 feet deep. And like Roxanne said, they hold their breath for about 23 minutes on average. And so putting out these kinds of tags has led to all kinds of cool discoveries, not just about the seals themselves, but about what's happening out there in the middle of the ocean. So up here in the right is a female elephant seal with her tags. And each of these different colored dots are a different adult female elephant seal. This is where they were about a month ago or so. So I think I can show you in just a second the where they are right now. But right now they're actually a lot closer to the coast. They're coming back. There's a couple that are off of Point Reyes and then one off of Humboldt, so kind of in a little ways north of us. So the seals are on their way back, and once they come back to the beach, we will retrieve their gear and be able to see all of the things that they were up to while they were out on that long trip. If at any time you want to check on the seals and see where they are, you can check out the Año Nuevo Research Facebook page. There's a live cam where you can watch the seals and sea lions on Año Nuevo Island. Or Roxanne's website has this tracker so that you can check out where the adult female seals are. And then we also have a tracker for the younger seals who are just being tagged for the first time this year. So we're really interested to find out where they go and what's happening with them. So you can check on them at any time on Roxanne's website here. And I think with that, we can go to questions or Kahoot or whatever is up next for you.
All right, perfect. I love that the students can now go and track the elephant seals and see what they're up to and where they're heading. And that they're all heading back to you. So soon you'll be getting some of that gear back. That's really cool. A lot of data coming your way. All right. Well, what I'm going to do now is share my screen. I'm going to bring our view of the elephant seals back in as well. And we're going to take part in a little Kahoot action. So I'm going to share a link up on the screen for everybody. If you just go to kahoot.it, it is then going to ask you for a PIN number. And I'm going to share my screen. You're going to see that PIN number shortly. So kahoot.it, and let me bring a screen share up here right now. Okay. So the PIN for today is 8173865. So if you have one-to-one technology, maybe a Chromebook or a tablet at your desk, you can put that in now. If not, your teacher could put it up at the front of the classroom and you can shout out your answers when the time comes. If you are using something like a tablet or even a phone, you could just scan that QR code in the corner. I see some students starting to join us already, which is great. There will be 5 questions today, a little bit of true and false, a little bit of multiple choice. The quicker you get your answer in, the more points you're going to get. Of course, you're getting no points if the answer is wrong, but the quicker you get that right answer in, the more points you're going to get. 20 seconds for each question, so you do have a little bit of time. Let's give it another few more seconds to get a few more classes or a few more students in with us. We have our generated animal names like the Steller raccoon, the aquatic boa. Do we have any seals today? I thought I saw one. Let me scan down our list here. Maybe not. That's okay. Maybe one will pop in. Brave lobster, cute sloth. Oh, there, the green sea lion. So sort of, not quite a seal, but sea lions are kind of close. All right. A couple more seconds. All right, let's take this quiz live and see who comes out on top. So our first question is a multiple choice. Where is Roxanne located today? Is she in Oregon? Is she in New York? Is she in California? Or is she in North Carolina? We definitely know she's on the beach, but where is she on the beach? Which state? Got 5 more seconds to lock in your answer. Remember, the quicker you can get that right answer in, the better it's going to do in that point category. Good job, crew. She is in California. The royal giraffe is in first place. Let's jump to our next question. This is another multiple choice. About how many elephant seals are there in the world? Was there about 500, about 10,000, about 200,000, or was there about 500,000? What did we learn towards the beginning of the talk about how many elephant seals are there in the world? A few more seconds. All right. Couldn't fool this crew, about 200,000. The silver kitten has taken that first spot. Now we're going to get into our first true and false. Killer whales are not predators of elephant seals. Is that true or is that false? The orcas, the killer whales, they are not predators of elephant seals. A couple more seconds to lock in your answer. All right, well played, crew. We know the killer whales and sharks like the great white shark are the two main predators of the elephant seals. The radiant dolphin has jumped into first place, and we are jumping to another question. Elephant seals can hold their breath for, was it 2 minutes, 6 minutes, 15 minutes, or 23 minutes? How long can those elephant seals hold their breath when they're diving down there? Got 5 more seconds to lock in your answer. All right, we are not fooling any students here today. 23 minutes from most of our crew. And that puts the silly koala in first. We are jumping around everywhere. No one's able to hold that top spot. But let's see what happens on this final question of true and false. Elephant seals dive deep to avoid their main predators. Is that true or is that false? Elephant seals dive deep to avoid their main predators. All right, vast majority went with true. That is absolutely right. In third place, we've got the silver kitten. In second place, the radiant dolphin. And holding down that top spot, the silly koala held on for that final question. All right. Well, good job, crew. We always love playing a little Kahoot. Let's change gears now, and we'll do a little Q&A action. Just a reminder that if you are tuning in via YouTube, you can use that chat sidebar and fire in your questions that way. And then we'll take some camera classroom questions as well. So let's start off. Miss McInnes's fourth graders are hanging out with us. Where are they joining us from today? They are in Maine, Cumberland Center. Let's bring them front and center. Here they come. Hey, fourth graders. How are we doing?
Quick. Hi.
All right, we're ready for you. Who's got a question?
How long have elephant seals been around?
Oh, Roxanne, you're on mute. We can't hear you.
So that's such a good question. I'm actually going to name the answer. They've been around so long that there are fossils here and on some islands in California. So many, 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 many years, but I couldn't give you an exact answer. I'd have to look it up on Google.
All right.
You stumped the scientist. Congratulations.
Perfect. And I'm not going to look it up today either. I'm going to leave that as a little homework, a little classwork to figure out how long elephant seals have been around. You guys can check that out later. Fourth graders, you have another question for us? You want to squeeze another one in?
Oh, you have another question? Come on, Mason. All right, here we go.
What kind of food do they eat?
What kind of food do they eat? So we think, we're not 100% sure because it's really hard to figure out what seals are eating like thousands of miles off the coast and a mile underwater. But some of our colleagues have put video cameras, sort of like GoPros, on the heads of the seals to figure out what they eat. And what they found is that seals eat mostly fish. There's a kind of fish that's called a myctophid or a lanternfish. Called a lanternfish because they have some bioluminescence that they make. So they kind of like are bright in the really dark ocean and kind of easy to capture. So myctophid fish and a little bit of squid as well. But we wouldn't be surprised if they're maybe eating like some octopuses, even some like skates and rays, like some of the kind of things that go along the bottom of the seafloor. We have yet to find out, I'm sure, all of what elephant seals are eating.
All right. Great questions, crew. Thanks, fourth graders. Okay, we've got another question here. Actually, this question's come up a couple times. We've got Mr. Shattuck's crew joining us from Chalk River, and another student is putting the same question in here. They're wondering the tags, do they ever fall off?
You want to answer that, Allison?
Yeah, sure. So the big tags that we attach onto their backs and heads don't usually fall off. We're really careful about that because the tags are really expensive and we don't want to lose them in the middle of the ocean. So we use a really strong glue to glue them onto the seal's back. They're attached to a little piece of mesh and zip tied on. So when the seal comes back, we can cut the zip ties and clean up the patch and just kind of pop the tag off. And then that patch will molt off as the seal sheds its skin. So we take a lot of care to make sure that they're going to come back to the beach.
All right, great question. Let's bring in another one of our virtual crews here. This time, where should we go? Let's go to Miss Wallach's crew in Virginia. Looks like some third graders. I'm going to bring them in front and center. Hey, third graders, how we doing?
Abigail, Abby. Abigail. Where is Abigail? Abby. Abigail, you too. Ask your question. The camera's right up here. Ask your question.
What's your favorite animal that you've seen?
That's a great question, Abigail. Maybe Allison and I can both answer because we might have different answers. My favorite is GU17, because when I was an undergraduate student 10 years ago, she was the very first seal that I got to watch go through a procedure and get an instrument. And it was a really special experience for me. And so it's really fun now to be able to bring my students out to do the same thing. How about you, Allison?
I don't know if I have a favorite individual seal yet. So stay tuned. I still have some time to figure out who's my favorite. But in terms of favorite animal, I think, I never studied seals until about a year ago, and they are quickly becoming one of my favorite animals. They're just so funny and so fun to be around. Yeah, great question.
All right, third graders, I see a few more hands. We want to get another one in?
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
What cool adaptations do elephant seals have?
Such a great question. Also, have a really obvious one. An adaptation that seals have is that they're so fat. They have so much blubber. So you see these seals are almost like spherical. You see the seal when it lifts its head has like lots of double chins. It has a lot of fat all around it. And that helps them stay warm when they're out in the cold ocean. So right now it's about 35 degrees out here. I am freezing. My fingers feel like they're going to fall off. But these seals don't seem to mind at all, even though they're laying on the freezing cold ground. So blubber is definitely a really cool adaptation that the seals have.
Yeah, I'll add another one quickly that you might have noticed from the video, but these seals have really big eyes. And that is super helpful when they're down in the dark. So they're able to get any tiny little glimpse of light, they can pick it up and try to use it to find their food, because a lot of times they're just down there in complete darkness when they're looking for food.
All right, very cool. Let's
Thank you.
Here. Yeah, that was a great question. I'm going to grab another question here. We've got some more coming in via the chat. We've got some Oakville, Ontario students wondering if, let's see. They're wondering about, do humans still hunt seals?
Fortunately, humans do not hunt seals anymore. It is actually illegal under the Marine Mammal Protection Act to hunt seals. So that's one of the reasons that the seals feel really safe around us. You can see these seals don't really mind that I'm here. And in fact, when the seals were being hunted by humans, most of the seals lived on islands. And that was because they could get away from the hunters there. And so now, because humans don't hunt them, the seals have moved onto the mainland. And that's why if you come to California, you can see the seals on the beach. We can study them relatively easily. And we're really grateful for that. So we're really glad that the Marine Mammal Protection Act was put into place so that these seals could be protected from human hunting.
All right. We know here in Canada that there is still some seal hunting going on. There are different species. There's the indigenous peoples in the north and the Arctic, the Inuit, and they hunt the seals, and they use every single part from, the food to the skin for clothing and things like that. So it is still does happen in Canada, but different species of seals. I don't think there's any elephant seals that far north. Okay, what do we have here? Let's grab one more. Let's just bring in another camera classroom. We've got Miss Desmond's crew joining us here. How are we doing today? Or is that Desmond Public School? All right.
In the video, I saw they have numbers on them, and I'm wondering why they have numbers.
You want to take that, Allison?
Yeah, sure. So their numbers are kind of like their name a little bit. So to be able to track them, they all kind of look the same. So it's kind of hard to figure out who's who if you're going back day after day. So their number helps us just identify them every single day, and then we can track them over time. So it's kind of like their ID number or their name. Yeah, good question.
All right. Great question, bud. Let's see if there's another question there.
How do the research teams know the mother to their pup?
I think the question was, how do the researchers know who the mother and the pup is? Is that right? Yeah, great question. So we work really, really hard in order to get that piece of information. So here's a better view of H903 that I was trying to show you guys before. Now imagine H903 grows up to become an adult female and then has a pup of her own, and that pup gets a flipper tag and a mark. If we see those two seals together, if we see that H903 is nursing a pup with a known flipper tag number, then we can associate those two seals in the database. And then we know that that pup belongs to that mother. We can also tell if we take a little bit of a tissue sample and run the genetics on it, we can tell the mother offspring relationships from how related they are, which is pretty cool.
All right. Awesome questions, guys. Thanks so much. Let's grab another question here from YouTube. Ms. Garcia's class is tuning in, and they're wondering, we know the elephant seals are protected, but we know in places around the world that oftentimes people still hunt illegally. Is that an issue with elephant seals?
I've only heard of, I think, one instance of people illegally hunting the seals. I'm sure it happens a little bit more than we know. There's some conflict between marine mammals and humans, especially if humans are fishing, for example, and so the humans don't want the seals to eat all their fish. But most of that is sort of humans trying to get the seals away from their fishing vessels using things like seal bombs, which are these, little kind of underwater firecrackers that make noise and push the seals and sea lions away from the fishing vessels. But those don't usually result in the seals dying, which is great. So I've only heard of one instance of a human illegally killing a seal, and it was a very weird case that resulted in a big jury trial and everything. So fortunately, it's not very common.
Okay. Let's see. I can see a grade 7-8 class just joined us. So if you do have any questions about the elephant seals, feel free to pop something into the private chat and we can work that in. But let me check in. Give me a wave in any of the classrooms if you want me to come back for a bonus question before we wrap up today. We'll see if we can squeeze in another couple questions before we go. I think I see some waving in Maine, so I think we better bring them back in. There they are.
Elise, come on up.
How much can the elephant seals weigh up to?
Allison, you want to take that one?
Yeah. So male and female elephant seals are really different. The males get really, really big, but pretty much all elephant seals are giant. So one of the things is that when we weigh them, they're actually at their skinniest. So they're about to go off on their long foraging trips. So an adult female, I think it's typically about 1,500 pounds, so 1,500 pounds when she's at her skinniest. And for the adult males, it's closer to 4,000 pounds.
Wow.
And then for these juveniles, like the ones we're seeing right now, I think it's around 300 to 500, although Roxanne, maybe correct me if I'm wrong on that.
That's right.
Yeah, around 300 to 500 pounds for those.
All
they're
right.
pretty big animals, even though they look kind of small on the screen.
Great question. Let's try Virginia. Do you guys have another question for us?
Yes.
Do the elephant seals have teeth?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they have such big teeth. They're carnivores. Maybe if one of these guys yawns, I can try to capture it and move the camera over really quickly. But they have canine teeth just like we do, but they're really, really big. The males have bigger teeth than the females, but they use those teeth for lots of things. They use it for eating so they can catch those slippery fish while they're in the water. And they also use it to protect themselves from each other. So, for example, during the breeding season, the males can be pretty nasty. You see these two males right now, they're sort of play fighting. They're probably like J136, the one on the right side. I don't know if you can see his mark there. It's just doing a little play fighting, and maybe he'll do a little bit of lunging and opening his mouth and hitting the other seal with his teeth. They don't do too much damage, but when these seals are 10 times larger than they are now and they're adults, their teeth can actually do some pretty decent damage to each other. And so if you see a picture of an adult male elephant seal, you'll often see that they have these huge like chest and neck shields. It's like this kind of like scar tissue that they've built up over their necks and chests, and that's from all the fighting that they're doing and all the big teeth doing some damage to the other males. And of course they do that, to be able to get access to the females. So they have this crazy dominance hierarchy where there's the alpha males and the beta males, and only the really popular males get access to all the females. And it's often the biggest ones with the biggest teeth. So those teeth obviously play a really important role in their breeding system as well.
All right. Really cool to get to see them behaving like this on the beach. Nice front and center seat for that play, which will be a little more serious when they get bigger. Okay, let's take one more question here from our Viola Desmond crew.
Why are they called elephant seals?
You want to take that, Allison?
Yeah, sure. So one reason why they're called elephant seals is because they are so big, like we've talked about. They get to be just really, really giant. And the males have this really long nose. It's called a proboscis. And the nose kind of hangs down their face and sometimes will just rest on the beach. It kind of looks like an elephant's trunk. And that's the other reason why they're called elephant seals. And when the males are fighting each other, the bigger their nose means that they're just a bigger animal. So that's something that they look out for when they're fighting each other. Yeah, exactly like that.
Picture quickly here because you can't really see it on the young ones, but you can definitely see where that could come from there. Very, very cool. Well, one final question here before we wrap up from YouTube. And a classroom is curious, besides the great whites and the orcas, are there any other predators large enough to eat an elephant seal?
The short answer is your guess is as good as ours at this point. I wish that we had a way better idea of the species interactions that happen in the open ocean. I think that's something that we're going to try to figure out over the next 30 years. One guess that we have, there's this kind of shark called a sleeper shark. And it's kind of a misnomer because I think they're pretty active in the deep ocean, but they have been found to eat a species of sea lion. So it's possible that these elephant seals are eaten by sleeper sharks as well. But there's so much yet to be explored about the open ocean, and ask us again in 30 years and hopefully maybe we'll have a better answer for you.
All right. Excellent. Well, I want to start off with a huge shout out to our classrooms today, our YouTube classrooms, our camera classrooms. Thanks for the amazing questions. As always, thanks for playing along the Kahoot with us. A huge shout out to both Allison and Roxanne. Thank you so much for giving us some time nice and early in your day to take us to the beach and to take us into your research. And let me bring the students in here because they always love to get loud. So thank you so much, students. It was great to see you as always. There they are. Great crew. Thank you so much. We love our trip to the beach to the elephant field. All right. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great rest of the week. Roxanne and Allison, thank you so much. Enjoy your time in the fields, and we can't wait to hear what comes back with those seals making their way back to the shore.
Thanks, Joe. Always a pleasure. We'll see you next year.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. See ya.